Morning, Instagram people. You may not be hearing the music this morning. We were getting some cutouts last time, so we're getting that fixed for next time. So, but everybody else, glad that you're here on the Monday Mindset Movement. We're getting ready to get started here in just a few moments. Yes. Monday morning. Welcome to the show. Hey, Patsy Irish, how you doing? So glad that you're joining us here on Instagram. If you want to get the music and the movies and all of that stuff, jam with us on YouTube, all right? Or you can actually hang out with us on Facebook as well. But either way, we're going to get rocking and rolling here in just a few moments. It's right at the top of the hour. We're getting ready to get started with the Monday Mindset Movement. Yeah, all right. Good deal. Yep. Getting ready to rock and roll here in just a moment. Or three. All right, we're getting ready to rock and roll here. So glad you're joining us this morning. Hey, good morning, Orlando. Hey, D Collects. What's happening? How y'all doing? Natalie, Greg, how y'all doing this morning? Yeah, on Instagram, we're just going regular. We're going regular this morning. I see you, Natalie, and your request. I'm gonna get you in here in just a few minutes. I'm gonna get you in here. All right, let's go. 8 o'clock. Here we go. Bam. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Monday Mindset Movement. I'm your buddy, your friend, your uncle, your nephew, your neighbor, that dude, Robert Kennedy III, RK3, that's me. We are jamming on a Monday morning, getting ready to rock and roll with the Monday Mindset Movement. And this is about 15 to 20 minutes show that is designed to get you rocking and rolling through your week. 15 minutes of elevation, motivation, and inspiration. Yes, let's rock and roll. Let's do this. So, hey, today, what are we talking about today? Let me get some questions in your space. All right. How many times do you fail at something before you decide that it's time to move on? Yeah. How big of a failure does it have to be for you to say uncle? Yeah. Or what is the limit before you decide that you're going to stop trying something? Oh, my goodness. Listen, y'all, if you want to join us, go to MondayMindsetMovement.com. Get connected with the community. And if you want to get notified when we go live, head on over to, or actually send a text, send go live to 240-55-STORY. That's 240-55-STORY. All right, let's get rocking and rolling with the show this morning. Boom, here we go. Hey, y'all, it's the Monday Mindset Movement, and I'm glad that y'all are here. Evelyn Santana, good to see you this morning. Dr. Dwayne Wood, how you doing? Good to see you this morning. Evelyn Weeks, or Edlin Weeks. I'm calling you Evelyn. Just somebody else. Hey, how you doing? Edlin Weeks, how you doing? Good to see you this morning. Natalie Gregg, so glad that you're here this morning. My goodness, D Collects, Armin Karaxian, good to see you. Barbara Polk, good to see you. Patsy Irish, good to see y'all this morning. If you are a real estate agent, do me a favor. Head on over to rk3live.com/VSB beta. Want to make sure that you join me for the video story boot camp. We're getting started within a few weeks, and this is going to be fantastic. If you want to get better at video storytelling, if you're an agent and you want to learn how to attract your ideal audience, generate more income, and make your sales better with video storytelling, join me for the video story boot camp. rk3live.com/VSB beta. All right, let's jump on in to our session. Let's jump on into our story this morning. So here's the deal. I failed organic chemistry, y'all. Yeah. I failed. I just wanted to start. I wanted to start off with that because for years it wasn't something that I could talk about. For years it wasn't something that I could articulate or say out loud, and much less say it with laughter. Right? I was that kid. I was that kid. I got A's in most of my classes, and in most subjects, I really didn't have to try that hard. I was just one of those kids who I was able to assimilate information fairly quickly and easily. Right? I got information. I looked at what the teacher said. Boom, got it in my brain, and it worked for me. I just understood it. But organic chemistry, for some reason, was just this class that stumped me. I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. Hey, Think Kim. All right. Think Kim said organic chemistry is hard. I hardly passed it. Got a C minus. Yeah. So organic chemistry, my first time I took it, I straight failed the class. I went to summer school after that, and I took it again, and I got a C. I got a C, or maybe a C minus. One of those. Hey, Yuva Shakes, good to see you. Indy Jabble, good morning to see you. Good morning. Jeannie Snyder Chamberlain, sorry. Good to see you this morning. All right. Yo Key Experiences. Good to see you this morning. Glad to see y'all. So I used to I took this class, and I failed this class, and I didn't talk about failing for years because there was this shame associated with failing. Let me ask y'all really quickly. What do you feel? What's the feeling that you feel inside of you when you fail at something? All right, Riley Jones, how do you feel when you fail at something? Yo Key Experiences, how do you feel when you fail at something? Indy, how do you feel when you fail at something? Evelyn Santana, how do you feel when you fail at something? Right? A lot of us feel guilt. You feel guilt. You feel shame. You feel ostracized. You feel singled out. Right? Jeannie says, I feel depleted when I fail. You think that you're not smart enough, says D. Right? Think Kim says you feel like a failure. All of these things, right? We've been groomed. Evelyn says embarrassed, right? We've been groomed to think in black and white. And so what happens is when we fail, we think that we're doing something bad. We've been groomed to think in, what's the word? Opposites, right? Synonyms and antonyms, right? It's binary. Shame, guilt, failure, says Indy, right? We've been groomed to think that failure is the opposite of success. Okay, either you're succeeding, either you're getting an A, or you're not, or you're not succeeding. Right? We've been groomed to think that failure is the opposite of success instead of a necessary component. Right? Dwayne says, I thought I was being punished when I failed. When I fail, why do I repeat some of the same things? Man, we're going to talk about that. We're talking about that. So one of the things that I've talked about previously is how failure, or the feelings around failure, come to be, and why we as human beings treat it the way that we do. I don't know. There's some point in our life where failure becomes this thing that is thought of as a negative for us, right? I'm so glad that we don't always treat human beings this way. So, for example, if a baby's starting to walk and the baby falls, right? What do? We hold our hands out to the baby and we're like, oh, take another step. Right? But somewhere along the line, we begin to give up because somewhere we begin to criticize people. We begin to criticize humans for failure. We begin to be criticized for coloring outside the lines in our coloring book. We begin to be criticized for coloring the tree purple instead of green. We begin to be criticized for spelling a word incorrectly. And so as the criticisms mount, we begin to associate those with times that we failed. And as we begin to make those associations, we don't want to fail as much. And some of the words that y'all shared, embarrassment, guilt, shame, all of those things are things that we begin to put on ourselves and we begin to put on others. And so I think the first point that I really want to make here is, as you deal with little human beings, as you deal with medium human beings, as you deal with adult human beings, when we see them in failure, how do we treat them? What are the words that we say? How do we interact with people who are not necessarily meeting a specific standard? How do we interact with each other? How do we interact with ourselves? Right? When we mess up, when we fail, when we don't hit a mark, when we don't meet a benchmark or we miss a deadline, well, how do we treat ourselves? What are the words that we say to ourselves? Are they words that encourage us to try again? Yes, thank you, Indy. Right? Are they words that encourage us to be resilient? I've previously talked about this lady, Diana Nyad, who attempted to swim from Cuba to Florida without stopping. Right? She didn't make it until her fifth attempt, and she was 64 years old at the time. Can you imagine? I don't know the ages of everybody that is watching this morning. Can you imagine? All right. San Ash Connect Collections. Glad you're here this morning. Hey, Galaxy Wellness, glad you're here. Can you imagine being over 60 years old and just kind of saying, you know what? I'm going to try to swim 90-something miles without stopping, with jellyfish stinging you the entire way, with weather conditions, with fatigue getting into. Can you imagine that? Right? So it was on her fifth attempt. It was on her fifth attempt that she made it from Cuba to Florida. Right? And that is a picture of resilience. You try once and you fail. She says, nope, I got to do it. She tries it a second time. She fails. She says, nope, I got to do it. She tries it a third time and she fails. Nope, I've got to do it. She tries it a fourth time and she fails. And then guess what? Between the fourth and the fifth attempt, there was a 13-year gap. It wasn't just like, oh, let me try it again next week. There was a 13-year gap. And when there's time between attempts, when there's time between failures, right, you can get a lot of stuff in your brain. And as I talked about, what are the words that you're saying to yourself in between those attempts? Are you encouraging yourself, or are you talking to yourself in a way that is negative? The words that we say to ourselves are so crucial, right? And here's one of the things that I want to point out as we talk about failure, as we share our thoughts about failure, as we criticize for failure. I want us to rethink or reframe failure. I want us to redefine failure for ourselves and for children. Instead of failure being this death sentence, I want you to think of failure as a first attempt in learning. Right? Failure is simply a first attempt in learning. I want you, if we were to redefine failure as attempts instead of this thing that is fatal, instead of it being this thing that's at the end. Man, what a resilient society we could become, right? Simply redefining this thing. There's this book called Option B, How to Face Life, with how to face adversity and become resilient. And it's written by, I believe, Adam Grant and Sheryl Sandberg. One of the things that I love, if there's a quote that I have here from that book, and it says, "Let me fail if I must fail, or let me fall if I must fall. The one I become in the process will catch me." So you see, we're afraid of who we may become. The other day, I was on a podcast and I was asked the question, what do you regret in your life, or what would you change in your life? And you know what? I said, you know what? I wouldn't change a thing in my life, not because my life is perfect or not because I did everything right, but who I became along the way, who I became while experiencing some of the failures, the decisions that I made as a result of the times that I messed up make me who I am right now. And I don't know if I had accelerated or jumped over some of the obstacles or jumped over some of the challenges, if I'd be the same person, if I'd think the same way, if I'd operate the same way. So no, I don't regret anything in my life. I mean, there's one decision that I would have liked to see how it would have turned out if I chose differently. Okay, and that was the time I turned down being a full-time radio anchor for a news station. Right? I would have liked to see how things turned out differently. But as far as the regrets or things that I would change, no. I've learned so many things along the way. I've become who I've become because of the failures and the decisions that I make. So let me fall if I must fall. Let me fail if I must fail. The one I become will catch me. And we've got to trust that. We got to trust that. So number one, as I just mentioned, instead of failure being a death sentence, redefine failure as first attempt in learning. And we've really got to stop defining ourselves by our failures, because one of the other things that Sheryl Sandberg says in this book is each one of us is so much more than the worst thing that we've done. Think Kim says our failures are character building tools for us. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to share another quote from this book. I wish I should have put it up on screen in time here, right? Yuva Sheikh says failure is a redirect process. I love it. I love it. Hey, Ramon Ray, how you doing this morning? Glad you're here. All right. I want to share another quote from this book, and it says, resilience is the strength and speed of our response to adversity. Resilience is the strength and speed of our response to adversity, and we can build it. It isn't about having a backbone. It's a backbone. It's about strengthening the muscles around our backbone. Right? It's not about failing. It's about the strengthening of our systems around the areas that we're working in. Right? So when you fail, it's not about avoiding the failure. It's about saying, okay, what do I need to do differently the next time? How can I make a comeback? How can I do this again? How can I do it better? How can I do it in a way that is going to create progress? How can I move the needle this time? That's what resilience is. And each of us has the ability to be resilient. Each of us has a resilience muscle. And we've got to strengthen that resilience muscle. So how do we build that resilience muscle? Here's what I want to challenge you with this week. I'm going to give you 5 things. 5 things that I want you to think about and do as you go through your week. How can you challenge your resilience muscle? Number 1, constantly seek challenge instead of comfort. Constantly seek challenge instead of comfort. Our lives are built around our comfort zones for a lot of us, right? Our lives are built around our comfort zones. And so we just want to be in warmth. We want to be underneath the blanket. We want to be in a space where life is easy. But in order to build resilience, in order to build that resilience muscle, constantly seek challenge instead of comfort. Number 2, learn to give yourself grace. Man, when we fail, when we mess up, when we break something, we get on ourselves. We're our own worst critic. Right? We're our own worst critic. But we've got to recognize that the failure, the broken thing is information. It's feedback that helps us to do something else. And so we've got to give ourselves a little bit of grace. Yeah. Evelyn Santana says we are our own worst enemy. Yeah, we are. Right? But we've got to give ourselves a little bit of grace. So that's my number 2 thing. We got to give ourselves a little bit of grace. Number 3, take care of your mental and your physical health. Take care of your mental and physical health. We've been talking about self-care a lot over the last couple of years, especially because of the pandemic. We've been talking about self-care, but we've come out of this space, and a lot of us have gone back to what we did before, and we're looking at Instagram, and we're looking at all of the places, and we're making all these comparisons, and we're getting ourselves mentally stacked. We're stacking mental negativity on top of mental negativity. We're stacking stress on top of stress in our brain. Give yourselves some grace and take care of your mental and physical health. So that's the third thing. I'll repeat the first three again. Number one, constantly seek challenge instead of comfort. Number two, give yourself grace. Number three, take care of your mental and your physical health, which means exercise, y'all. Right? You got to exercise. Number four, develop some interests and hobbies. Sometimes we're so locked in to the hard, or we're locked into the challenge, or we're locked into the must do, the stuff that the routine stuff, that we forget to build our capacity, that we forget to build our growth mindset by having fun in our learning. So developing your interests and your hobbies, you can get better at bowling. You can get better at golf. You can get better at puzzles, Rubik's Cubes. You can get better. Develop those. Spend some time with those as well. Spend some time with challenges that you absolutely love, enjoy, or that just relax you. Develop your interests or hobbies. Build out your model car or your model train or your model airplane or whatever it is that you love to do. Read. Develop your interests and your hobbies. And then number five, here's the number five thing. Find people who are resilient and encourage failure. If you are around friends or people who encourage you to be perfect, that's the wrong group of people. That's the wrong group of people. If you're around people who simply encourage you to be perfect, that's the wrong group of people. Find a group of people who are resilient and encourage failure. And when I say failure, I don't mean they encourage you to do nothing, all right? Or to give up. I mean people that encourage you to break stuff, people that encourage you to innovate, people that encourage you to grow, people that encourage you to take on risks, people that encourage you to take challenge, people that encourage you to move on to the next step, people that encourage you that even in spite of a setback, then you move forward, you keep going. I think my friend Willie Jolly says a setback is a setup for a comeback. So you got to be around people who encourage you to do that. Then Kim says, having a tribe that embraces failures. Yeah. And believes in learning from your failures. That's fantastic. Right? That is one of the ways to help yourself move forward. Right? So I'll repeat those five. How to build resilience. Constantly seek challenge. Learn to give yourself grace. Take care of your mental and physical health. Develop your interests and your hobbies. And number five, find people who are resilient and encourage failure. Listen, y'all, we're a little bit over time today, but today is Monday. And we want you to shift your mindset to a place of growth, but it doesn't just start and stop on Monday. Yeah. We want to encourage you to take your Monday mindset into tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Make a choice. Move. Start a movement. Be a movement. Join me next week, Monday, on the Monday Mindset Movement right here on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Hey, y'all, let's end with the quote for today. Let me fail if I must fail. Let me fall if I must fall. The one who I become will catch me. I'll see you next time. Hey, Nathalie Gregg, how you doing today?